Hello and welcome to Forever Football on Forever Sports. The Premier League season is back and Forever Sports plans on bringing you all the coverage throughout the season. It is a massive year of football. The Football World Cup is just a few months away. We have big plans to cover this and really start bringing in other sports onto the Forever Sports channel. Obviously, we are very much rugby and to a lesser extent cricket based at the moment, but it is Forever Sports and we would like to sort of start tapping into more sort of sport and really sort of become a very holistic channel. To try and make this channel as successful as possible. So with that, it's Premier League time, and after a few months, we've seen lots of transfer activity happening. It's time to do it all again. The question is, can Man City go back to back? Will Liverpool challenge for the title? Will we see the likes of an Arsenal, Manchester United push the top four again? Are Spurs a bit of a dark horse? What's going to happen with Chelsea? Very 50-50, very good transfer window. In some cases, very frustrating transfer. In other cases, for the Blues, and lots to talk about with regards to other teams. You know, can Newcastle with the new money really go and start making a bit of a charge within the league and sort of find themselves in that sort of top 8 spots? Lots and lots of questions. Also, it's going to be a very strange season, given the fact that it will break towards the end of the year for the World Cup, which is very unusual. And as a result, it's going to be some very interesting scheduling across the next few months. But before we look at the sort of the matches for the first weekend, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. So in terms of what to expect for this weekend, it's a very good question, at the end of the day. And I think we're sitting here not kind of knowing exactly what's going to happen with a lot of the clubs, because first of all, the transfer window has not come to an end yet. And as a result, we're sort of still guessing basically of what all these final sort of teams are going to look like. And I think sort of more importantly is pre-season is obviously always so sketchy to use as a barometer, and you never sort of want to make your sort of predictions based on pre-season because things change so quickly in the league. Let's have a look at the fixtures and sort of see what we can maybe potentially expect in the coming days as the season kicks off tomorrow night. And it kicks off tomorrow night in London. If we go and look at the fixtures, these are the fixtures for the first weekend. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. It'll be a London derby tomorrow night as the Eagles host the Gunners. Arsenal have had some very good transfer business. They've let go of Bernd Leno. They've sort of made Aaron Ramsdale their number one. But the big signing that they're sort of waiting to see if it's going to make a massive difference is Gabriel Jesus from Man City, who has scored, I think, like 5 or 6 goals in the pre-season. He's been in red hot form, and very much Arsenal looking to permanently replace Aubameyang, Lacazette, find their 20-plus goal striker. And Gabriel Jesus has had sort of purple patches of form for Man City, but he was never a regular and consistent goal scorer. And as a result, he's now going to a club where he's going to play regularly, which I think is the first thing for him. He will play regularly as a number 9 week in, week out. Crystal Palace under Patrick Vieira took massive steps forward last season and became a side that was actually very good to watch. Played a very nice attacking brand of football, very positive, and they were a side that were quite difficult to beat at times. So despite the fact that, as you can see by the odds, not given much of a chance, I think it's quite a difficult match up front for the Gunners who start the season used to start the season on top of the table just because of the alphabetical order. It's Bournemouth now back in the league, so they're sort of there. But and then on Saturday we will then have Fulham taking on Liverpool, and it's a battle of the 5 Fulham, who's sort of in and out of the Premier League all the time. And I think it's a side which just really struggles to take the step up. And it's a bit like a Norwich, where they go down to the Championship, they dominate the Championship back in the Premier League, and they can't always take the step up. Now, Liverpool, for example, are a side who will once again want to go for the title. And I think that bringing in Darwin Núñez was a huge signing. They've gone and found a proper number 9. They have lost Sadio Mane, but they have found, Luis Diaz, and now with Darwin Núñez, there are lots of goals, which in theory they should be able to replace Sadio Mane's goals. The thing with Liverpool is always sort of come down to whether their key players can stay fit for the entire season. When Virgil van Dijk went down a couple of seasons ago, it sort of spelled the end of a lot of their sort of aspirations. So there is depth in the squad, but not always sort of the depth of the same sort of quality. There are certain positions and players where if they do go down, Liverpool sometimes struggle to sort of replace them and be as good. But it's a phenomenal squad under a very good manager, and I do think that Fulham are going to be in for a long day. The Tottenham versus Southampton game for me is going to be a very interesting game, because I'm very interested to see how Spurs are going to play. They've made some very good signings. Bringing in Basuma, bringing in Perisic, bringing in Richarlison. They've loaded themselves in every sphere of the field, and I think that a lot of them are very intelligent signings. I personally think that Spurs arguably have the best front three in the league, with Richarlison, Kane and Son, just in terms of the amount of goals they can score. And Antonio Conte staying has been a massive boost for Tottenham, where it did look at one stage like he would be on his way out, but he has decided to commit to the club for another season, and they've made some intelligent signings. And he's a manager who knows how to win. He doesn't often stay around, but he knows how to win. And very interested to see. You will go back to a back three, how they'll be able to sort of get all these players gelling together, and whether he'll be able to really mount a genuine title charge back in the Champions League as well. So they will have to compete on two fronts, but far more favourable two fronts than, for example, the Europa League. You then got Leeds United versus Wolverhampton. Leeds have lost Calvin Phillips, a massive loss to them, and interesting to see just how much they miss him, because Leeds are a side who, despite all their history last season, were very much in the relegation scrap. And we saw Marcelo Bielsa getting sacked. We saw them having to really sort of mount a bit of a late charge to sort of get themselves to safety. But they're a side that likes to play very entertaining football. Wolverhampton were very much a dark side with the Wolves last year, because they didn't start off particularly well, but they suddenly progressed quite quickly and were actually playing some very good football towards the end of the season. So they're a fun team to watch. Newly promoted Bournemouth will be up against Aston Villa and the Steven Gerrard project, looking to try and sort of better their finish last season, try to sort of take the next step up. As a United supporter, it kind of pains me to say, but I do think that Steven Gerrard does look a very good manager, and I think that they're a side that could very well find themselves in the top 10. Continue back there is going to be a lot of fun to watch. You then got Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest back in the Premier League. They've signed Jesse Lingard. They've got Dean Henderson on loan from United. So they have got a couple of interesting players, and Newcastle are making very intelligent signings. For example, that Nick Pope signing, I think, has been an absolute brilliant signing of players. You might not even remember or thought about when Burnley went down that he'd be a good fit for Newcastle, but Newcastle have done some very clever business, and they've spent a lot of money, but they haven't gone and bought these massive, huge stars. They've gone and looked at players who are top tier and could be world class, might not necessarily be world class yet. Sven Botman, a very intelligent signing. Kieran Trippier, a brilliant piece of business. So they've gone and signed very intelligent players, and they're not just sort of going the Galacticos or the PSG route of signing these absolute massive superstars. They're trying to invest in specific types of players, and not necessarily spending massive transfer fees, but building a squad under Eddie Howe, which I think is going to be very interesting to watch. Everton versus Chelsea. Frank Lampard up against his former side. He's under a lot of pressure. I think that he's currently very much being seen as someone who might not be fit to be an elite manager. He was in a relegation scrap last year with Everton when he did join the club, so they did keep him up. He did keep them up, but if you look at position wise, they didn't actually progress much under him. Obviously sacked from Chelsea after his poor stint there, so he's got a lot to prove this season. And Everton have lost Richarlison, which is a huge loss to the club, and I'm very interested to see if they're going to be able to cope without him. They've got Manchester United taking on Brighton. Manchester United starting the new dawn under Eric Ten Hag as well. So that's been Benny McCarthy, who's joined as an assistant coach. A new era for the club, but unfortunately, there's been a new season, same story in terms of signings, or rather a lack thereof signings, because they have made some business in bringing in somebody like Malaysia, and Martinez, but they haven't strengthened in the areas that United feel they need to strengthen. They haven't brought in a striker, although Anthony Martial is back from loan, but is injured for this weekend. There's a big sort of debate raging whether Cristiano Ronaldo will stay at the club or whether he will push for a move because he doesn't want to play in he doesn't want to play in the Europa League. But still no midfielder. The Frankie de Jong star continues to draw out, so Manchester United get quite frustrated at that. So interesting to see, but obviously a new manager means a new opportunity for a lot of players, and I think players like Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, are very much players who are expected to really take the step up and to start proving that they deserve to stay in the squad and to be backed and can become world class and starters in a successful Manchester United team. Leicester taking on Brentford. Brentford, a bit of a surprise package last year. There's always that one promoted team who go on to be very good. They were that team. And Leicester, for me, are in big trouble. They've lost a lot of players. They're looking like they could still lose a lot of players. Chelsea going after Wesley Fofana, Kasper Schmeichel having left the club. Talks about Yuri Tielemans or James Maddison leaving. So they're in a lot of trouble with regards to departures, and they actually haven't signed anybody yet. So Brendan Rodgers is very much a name where people are throwing around as potentially the first manager to get sacked, actually, just because their business has been so poor in the window so far. And then West Ham taking on Manchester City. Manchester City, the Holland era begins. Can he do it in the Premier League? Will he smash all the goal records like he has been doing all around Europe? That is the big question. And I think the answer is probably a very much yes. As you can see by the odds, they're playing against a good West Ham side, and yet they're only being West Ham are still 8-1 odds to win the match. So yeah, I mean, Manchester City are the title favourites at the end of the day. There's just so much quality in that side, and they've brought in Calvin Phillips, they've brought in Haaland, they've brought in some very big players in very important positions. They've brought someone who's going to fix sort of midfield out, and they've brought in someone who is going to lead the line. And they didn't have a striker there. It's the first striker they've had, really, of that sort of quality since Aguero. So 2 seasons ago, Pep Guardiola said that they couldn't replace Aguero. Well, they now have with Erling Haaland, who is probably the most promising number 9 in the world right now. Question is, can he do it in the Premier League? And we're going to see this weekend. He didn't have a particularly good Community Shield, fluffed a big chance, didn't have that many touches. But as the season grows, you expect him to get more and more opportunities. And as those opportunities come, be interested to see if he can really capitalise. West Ham, well, David Moyes is doing fantastic things with the squad. Importantly, they have kept Declan Rice at this stage. So they haven't lost any of their sort of the big players, which is always sort of the case when these sort of teams like West Ham do well. Can they hold on to their players? Is it a 1 or 2 season, progression, and then suddenly they get ransacked and they kind of default back? And that's happened a lot to a lot of different clubs. It hasn't quite happened to West Ham. And in fact, I think they're really looking to try and push on and try and take the next step. So I think we are seeing a lot of the older clubs, more traditional, with a lot of history clubs, kind of back with a vengeance. Nottingham Forest are European champions back in the Premier League. We're seeing Newcastle and West Ham building projects again. So I think we're in for a very exciting season, and I think that a lot of people are finding it quite difficult to call a winner. Everybody's saying the title race very much between Chelsea and between Liverpool and Manchester City, and I think that Chelsea, Spurs could be dark horses in the race. I don't think you're going to see Arsenal and Manchester United really push, but I think Chelsea and Spurs could very much be pushing for the league if they can get a couple of chances right and if they can get a playing style right. Chelsea is still no striker, so that's a big sort of area of concern, but have brought in some very good defenders, the likes of Koulibaly. So I'm interested to see exactly what happens with Chelsea in the coming season, but it should be a very interesting campaign for Thomas Tuchel. But yeah, let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments below. Please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Let me know who you're supporting this season. We will have a watch along starting from next weekend. We will have wrap-ups. We are going to have a lot of live shows, for example. We're going to do sort of probably 3 weekly live shows. We're going to do looking at football news, transfer news and stuff like that. So we really want to try and get football going on the channel, and we really appreciate your help in doing it. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen. I'll chat to you soon.